This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 31st, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Hump Day and Happy New Year's Eve to everyone out there. Last day of 2025, but let's get into it. Exciting Sixers game yesterday. Very, very exciting. They win it 139-136 over Memphis in overtime. VJ Edgecombe with the game winner with 1.7 seconds left. He finished with 25 points, played well in the fourth quarter and into the overtime period. Joe made some big shots there in overtime. Also took a couple head scratchers, which always seems to be the case with him. But he and Tyrese Maxey both ended up with 34. Paul George played, so this is the first win with the quote-unquote big three intact. But again, what a fun game. VJ Edgecombe is the real deal. Love what I'm seeing out of him. But the Sixers with a 139-136 win in overtime. They are in Dallas tomorrow to take on the Mavericks. Probably didn't see this one, though. Flyers out on the West Coast in Vancouver. Win it 6-3, and Rick Tocchet's returned to Vancouver. 6 Flyers scored goals. Matvei Mishkov had 2 assists. They're back at it tonight out in Calgary. Good to see the Flyers back on the winning side of things. All right, some more Eagles news here. And I did do a deeper dive into some of the woes of the second half after listening to Kevin Petula's press conference, which he didn't tell us a whole lot of anything, just that it's not really one thing. Sometimes he said, we run the ball to run the ball. And what? Like, yeah, I get sometimes you want to run the ball to set things up, but if you see something that you can audible out of that's going to be successful, you should probably do that instead of running. Andy Reid used to use the short dump-off screen pass all the time as a running play. So not a very confidence-inspiring press conference by Kevin Petula. And then from there, going into the deep dive, I mentioned before he does a great job, but Emmanuel Acho breaks down on his big board or whatever he calls it, and looked at the second half play calls to Jalen, and essentially the offensive coordinator is not putting him in a position to be successful. Couple of the pass plays, you had 3 receivers within 5 yards of each other. They're running basic routes. They're running the same route, and they're just not setting him up. The offensive line did a horrible job protecting him. The one pass Jalen did miss, but for the most part, I can't put that on Jalen. Everybody's getting on him and saying, oh, you no passing yards in the second half, no completions. The play calling just is not helping. And I don't know what happened between the first half and the second half in that game, but we're back to what really we've been saying all year. This is a Kevin Petula problem. And Nick Sirianni said it's partly on him for not getting involved in the what? Your job is to oversee, and if you see something's not working, you got time to be jumping up and down with him in the first half when you throw the touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert. You got time to yell at Bills fans after the game. You don't have time in the second half to go talk to your offensive coordinator and say, yo, what the hell are you doing? The math ain't math in here, and hopefully they can get it together this week against Washington, which to me is even more of a reason of why you play the starters, at least for a half in this game, to get some of that continuity. And I know the argument against it is the risk versus the reward. You still need help to get the second seed. What if somebody gets hurt? I I get all that. And then, well, they've had 17 games so far, 16 games already to get this right. 18 weeks or 17 weeks, and they haven't got it. I agree, but I cannot go into the postseason with that sour taste, and you can't have your team with that taste in their mouth. The offensive line needs to play better. Kevin Patullo needs to do a better job setting up the receivers. Like, wasn't he the passing game coordinator? This passing game is not coordinated at all. So I still want to see the starters play. Minimal, a half. Treat it like a preseason game. Keep an eye on the score in the Lions-Bears game, and go from there. But I think you need to kind of keep this going and work through it. You can blame some of it on the weather, but some of the play calls and like the actual breakdown of the film I saw, you have three receivers within 5 yards of each other. The pass rushes in Jalen's face. The hell is he supposed to do? So that's my take on that. We'll have more on that, as well as whether the starters should play or not, on this week's Brotherly Birds breakdown. That will be coming out later this evening, so be ready for that. But that will be available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But I'm telling you, if you can, go to Emmanuel Acho's Twitter, look at his breakdown, and it's glaring how horrible this play calling was in the second half. And it was a complete 180 from what happened in the first half. I don't get it. It's like you come to the end of the play sheet, and then you're like, what do I do? And you go back to the basics, and the basics weren't working. All right, let's do some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word, like, review, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. And then remember, starting tomorrow, we're going to start turning the page and look at events and years and moments that changed Philly sports forever. So going to have some fun with that. As many people like to turn the page on the new year, we're going to look at some moments that turn the page on Philly sports. There will be no trivia question today. We'll get back with the trivia tomorrow. Kind of an abbreviated podcast today due to the holiday. But give me your Philly sports thoughts. What do you think about the play calling, Jalen, Patullo, all of it? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know what you're thinking. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds. All right, December 31st. And first, we're going to go back to 1988. And this is the game that essentially is responsible for this podcast. The story goes, started writing a book on Philly sports what ifs, got to a certain point where it was writer's block, started messing around with this day in Philly sports history, and the rest, as they say, is history. But that event that started it all, the big what if for me, the Fog Bowl, New Year's Eve, 1988. It was the first Eagles playoff game under Buddy Ryan, young team. They go back to Chicago, his former team, and lose 20-12 in the divisional round. But the fog rolled in late in the second quarter, and by the third quarter, you couldn't see much. And then by the end of the game, miraculously, the fog was gone. Now, a lot of people will put the blame on the fog for the Eagles losing this game. However, they had their chances, especially in the first half before the fog came in. They missed a field goal, had 2 touchdowns called back due to penalties. They had a 4th and 1 at the 4, couldn't get it done. I believe Keith Jackson dropped the touchdown pass on top of that. So essentially, the Eagles could have had a big enough lead that they could have just milked out this clock. They were down 17-9 at the half, but with the way that offense was, relying on Randall to drop back, and if there was no receivers open, run, the fog kind of neutralized that 100%. The defense did force 2 turnovers. Randall threw for 407 yards, but 3 costly interceptions. And this, a lot of people are like, oh, they only lost by one score, 20-12. But this is pre 2-point conversion. So they still needed 2 scores throughout that second half in order to do it. Because I think if there were the option for a 2-point conversion, it likely would have changed the thought process in the play calling. And it wasn't long after this that the 2-point conversion was introduced. But on this day, Eagles lose to the Bears 20-12 in the divisional round in what is famously known as the Fog Bowl. I have a digital copy of it. I've tried multiple times to watch it, and it just frustrates me because the Eagles should have had a big lead at halftime and been able to coast. And then, as far as I'm concerned, they would have gone out to San Francisco the next week, beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, gone to the Super Bowl, and likely would have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. Because at that point in time, the NFC dominated the AFC in the Super Bowl. And of all the 49er championship teams, this was the one that could have been beat, especially with that Eagles defense having the confidence, Randall having the confidence, winning a game, especially if the fog rolls in. That was the Super Bowl year. That was even probably more of a Super Bowl year than 1991. But the Fog Bowl happened on this day in 1988. Fast forward 1 year later, more weather and a playoff game for the Eagles. It was the wild card at the Vet this time. It was cold and rainy. Rams jump out early to a 14-0 lead. Greg Bell just gashed the Eagles for 140 rushing yards. Defense, though, did give the Eagles a shot. They forced 3 turnovers and sacked Jim Everett 2 times. Randall, though, just couldn't get it going in the wet conditions. The Rams defensive coordinator did an excellent job on neutralizing him. The Eagles did cut the lead to 14-7 when Anthony Toney scored a touchdown, but will go on to lose this game 21-7. And to make matters worse, the Rams upset the Giants the following week, which at that point in time, the Eagles owned the Giants. So if they beat the Rams, likely could have been playing in the NFC Championship game. And again, any one of these playoff wins for the Eagles in either of those years would have gone a long way in instilling confidence in this team, which ultimately they're known for their playoff failures. And kind of 2 back-to-back fluky years with weather, but they still should have done a better job. And then 1 year later, 1990, the LaSalle Explorers traveled out to LA to take on Loyola Marymount, and they put up a ridiculous offensive performance, one of the best in Big 5 history, beating the Loyola Marymount team 133-118. Randy Woods had 46, Doug Overton 45, and Jack Hurd 29, as the LaSalle Explorers put in one of the best offensive performances in Big 5 history, going out to LA, running with Loyola Marymount, and coming away with a 133-118 win. And then finally, in 2000, this is the game that led to me getting season tickets. Eagles welcomed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Vet for the wild card game. At that point, Tampa had that ridiculous record in temperatures, whether it was 40 degrees or 28 degrees or whatever it was or less. Temperature was below that for this game, and Donovan shined bright in his first ever playoff game, throwing for 2 touchdown passes, rushing for another one. The defense had 4 sacks, including 2 by Hugh Douglas, as the Eagles defense held the Buccaneers to 199 yards, beating them 21-3, winning Donovan's first ever playoff game. And again, number 5 shone bright in this one as the Eagles move on, beating the Buccaneers 21-3. I made the comment, I am getting season tickets next year. And sure enough, I did. Also, shaved my head that night. Yeah. So, I guess it makes sense that people didn't believe me when I said we're getting Eagle season tickets as I'm getting my head shaved. Anyway, it was a good time, though. All right, and then finally today, it is Wednesday. Time for a little What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to Lotwin.com for your 3D custom hype chains. Things are amazing. Getting one from winning the Clashing Conferences fantasy football. We'll be sure to show it on here so you guys can see the quality of this. But use the promo code TCCPOD to take 10% off of your order. And kind of do it a little bit differently today. And if we had, and kind of ask the question, what if we had to live 2025 all over again? What were the moments we want to relive the most? Kind of like, these are the best moments in Philly sports this year. A lot of these will likely be things we talk about within the next year as well. Obviously, the big one is Super Bowl 59, putting belt to ass to the Chiefs. And then even in that game, you can have Cooper's pick six, one of the sacks, the dagger, you name it, any of those moments. But obviously the biggest sports moment of the year that we'd want to relive over and over again is Super Bowl 59. But even leading up to that, Saquon's run against the Rams in the snow where he was hitting his helmet, obviously the backwards hurdle, the first play of the NFC Championship game, any of Saquon's runs, really, we would love to just relive over and over again. Kyle Schwarber's 4-home run game, kind of lost in everything that happened this year, was the fact that Kyle Schwarber had a game where he hit 4 homers in a game and had a shot for the 5th. Just couldn't get it done. Later in the season, the Phillies had an 8-home run game. Schwarber won the All-Star Game MVP. All great moments. Coming up clutch in the overtime, I guess, of the All-Star Game, winning the little mini home run derby. When they clinched the NL East out in LA, many of us were not awake for it, but it was a hell of a way to clinch it. Trey Turner won the batting title this year, even though the batting title doesn't mean what it used to mean. I mean, I would love to relive any of Christopher Sanchez's starts this year. He was just masterful. And anytime he went out there and pitches, Johan Duran's entrance, great moment being there for the first time, seeing that. Flyers earlier this season scored 3 goals in 26 seconds against the Devils. That was a fun one. Any of Trevor Zegras' ridiculous plays for the Flyers. Just any Sixers or Flyers game, really. Both of our winter teams are very, very fun to watch. You throw last night's game into it because of VJ's buzzer beater, but his debut, dropping 34 in his NBA debut. The introduction this year of the black throwback jerseys, you gotta love them. Union winning the Supporters Shield. So many great moments. Those are what probably we're going to be remembering as we go through the future of this podcast. But obviously, the biggest moment of the year, Super Bowl 59. What did I miss? What was your favorite Philly sports moment of the year? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. It's all fair game. Let's have some fun here on a New Year's Eve. On this day in 2000, Eagles beat the Buccaneers 21-3 in the wild card game. Donovan McNabb had a great first ever playoff game. In 1990, LaSalle beat Loyola Marymount 133-118 in one of the better offensive performances in Big Five history. Eagles lose to the Rams 21-7 in the wild card game in 1989, 1 year after losing to the Bears in the divisional playoff due to the fog. Hate that fog. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. We will have more on the Eagles as they gear up for their season finale against Washington. Don't forget that Brotherly Birds Breakdown will be out tonight. Best way to stay in the loop with that is just subscribe to the YouTube channel, even if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. And of course, we'll get ready for big Flyers game tomorrow, big Sixers game tomorrow, or big Flyers game tonight, big Sixers game tomorrow. We'll have it all for you on the first episode of 2026. And also, we're going to turn the page and look at moments and events that shaped and changed Philly sports forever. Be safe tonight. Don't be an idiot. Call a cab, whatever you got to do, but have some fun. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 31st, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. It's been great spending 2025 with you. Looking forward to what 2026 has in store. So happy New Year. And until next time, I'll see you next year.